From the outside, their life seemed like a flawless dream crafted from the finest threads of wealth and luxury. Towering glass walls framed breathtaking views of the city skyline, and inside their sprawling penthouse, every detail spoke of opulence, from the gleaming marble floors to the exquisite artwork adorning the walls. They were the quintessential power couple, the kind people admired and envied without hesitation. He was a billionaire businessman, known for his sharp mind and magnetic charisma. She, his beautiful wife, carried herself with grace and warmth, glowing not just from the lavish surroundings but from the life growing inside her. Their love story, as far as anyone could tell, was one of fairy tale romance and mutual devotion. She had dreamed for years about this moment, expecting their first child, the symbol of their union and the embodiment of their future. Each morning, she would gently press her hand to her belly, whispering hopes and promises to the tiny life she nurtured. She imagined their baby's first laugh, the gentle lullabies she would sing, and the bright future awaiting their family. For her, he was not just a husband or a provider, he was her confidant, her protector, the man who had promised to stand by her side through every trial and triumph. In her eyes, he was flawless, a successful, ambitious man who had built an empire from nothing, yet remained devoted to her and their unborn child. His image to the world was that of a titan of industry, commanding boardrooms with unwavering confidence, captivating investors with visionary plans, and donating millions to charitable causes with an air of humility. To her, he was the same man she had fallen in love with during their whirlwind romance, charming, attentive, and deeply caring. She trusted him implicitly, believing that beneath the polished exterior lay a heart that beat only for her and their growing family. Their home was filled with laughter and tender moments, the kind that painted their days with warmth and security. She saw no reason to doubt, no hint that the life they had built together was anything less than perfect. Yet, beneath the shimmering surface of their seemingly flawless existence, there were small, almost imperceptible cracks beginning to form. He had started coming home later than usual, citing endless meetings and business trips that kept him away from the warmth of their home. His phone was always nearby but guarded, screened down when she entered the room, conversations ending abruptly when she came close. The sparkle in his eyes seemed a little dimmer, the warmth in his smile just a touch forced. She brushed these signs aside, blaming the pressures of his demanding career, convincing herself that their love was strong enough to weather any storm. Still, an uneasy feeling settled in her heart, whispering doubts in the quiet moments when she was alone. Late at night, she would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was imagining things or if something beneath the surface was shifting. The future they had planned felt suddenly fragile, as if a storm was gathering just beyond the horizon. She clung to hope, to the faith that their love would triumph, yet a shadow of uncertainty crept quietly into her thoughts. The life they had seemed so perfect was starting to show signs of wear, and she could no longer ignore the subtle hints that all was not as it seemed. This was the beginning of a journey she never anticipated, a journey where trust would be tested, love questioned, and the foundations of their perfect life threatened to crumble. But for now, she held on to her dreams tightly, unaware that the discovery waiting in the next moments would change everything forever. One quiet afternoon, as she was tidying up the master bedroom, her fingers brushed against a crisp white shirt hanging on the back of a chair. It was his favorite dress shirt, one he often wore to important meetings and formal dinners. As she reached to fold it, a small, startling splash of deep red caught her eye near the collar. At first, she thought it was just a stain, maybe wine, or something spilled accidentally. But as she leaned closer, the unmistakable color and texture of lipstick smudged across the fabric became clear. Her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she simply stared, unable to move or speak. How could this be? How could there be lipstick on his shirt when she was the only woman in their home? Her mind raced, desperately trying to find an innocent explanation, but the image of the bright red stain burned vividly in her thoughts. Confusion flooded her, mixing with an overwhelming sense of disbelief. She told herself it must be a mistake, perhaps a smudge from a pen or some food, anything but evidence of betrayal. Her heart clenched as she ran scenarios through her mind, searching for a way to deny the painful truth that seemed to be staring her in the face. Could it have been from a business lunch with a female client? Or maybe an old stain from a previous day that she had simply missed. The denial was almost automatic, a shield she raised to protect herself from the crushing weight of reality. But no matter how she tried to rationalize, deep down she knew the mark wasn't innocent. It was too clear, too deliberate. The initial shock soon gave way to a storm of emotions swirling inside her, hurt, anger, confusion, and sadness all tangled together. How could he betray her trust like this, especially now when she was carrying their child? She felt as if the ground beneath her feet had shifted, and the secure foundation she had relied on for years was suddenly unstable. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the red stain into an unbearable symbol of something breaking apart. The love and loyalty she had poured into their marriage felt like it was being trampled, discarded without a second thought. She wanted to scream, to confront him immediately, but a part of her was frozen by fear of what she might discover, fear of losing the life she had imagined. As she stood there, clutching the shirt to her chest, she wrestled with herself. She asked silent questions, trying to find answers within her own heart. Was this really happening? Could the man she loved so deeply truly be unfaithful? And if so, what did that mean for her, for their unborn child? The betrayal felt not only like a personal wound but also a threat to the safety and happiness she had dreamed of during her pregnancy. She thought about the promises they had made, the future they had planned, and wondered how all of it could unravel so quickly. It wasn't just about a stain on a shirt, it was about broken vows, shattered trust, and the fragile hope that her baby would grow up in a home filled with love. Her thoughts drifted between her husband and the tiny life inside her womb. She worried about the impact of this betrayal on her mental and emotional well-being, and what it might mean for the child she was carrying. Would she be able to protect the innocence of that unborn life from the chaos that now threatened their family? The heartbreak felt doubled, her body nurturing new life while her heart grappled with pain and betrayal. She felt torn between her roles as a loving wife and a protective mother, unsure how to reconcile the two. The idea that her husband could be unfaithful made her question everything she believed about their relationship, about him, and about herself. She spent hours replaying moments in her mind, conversations, looks, and behaviors that she had previously dismissed as normal but now seemed suspicious. Every late night, every secretive phone call, every vague excuse suddenly took on new meaning. She realized that perhaps the cracks she had sensed beneath the surface were bigger than she had admitted. But now, the undeniable proof was right there, stained in bright red on his shirt. The reality crashed down on her in waves, making it difficult to breathe. Despite the turmoil inside her, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: this discovery could not be ignored. The fragile illusion of their perfect life had been shattered, and nothing would ever be the same again. After the initial shock of finding the lipstick stain, she knew she couldn't rush into confronting him without knowing the full truth. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on her chest, and although her heart screamed for answers, a cautious part of her urged patience. She decided to investigate quietly, determined to gather evidence before facing the painful reality head-on. The thought of a confrontation filled her with dread, and she wanted to be prepared, not only emotionally but also practically. So, late at night when the house was silent and he was away or asleep, she began to piece together the fragments of his recent behavior, searching for clues hidden beneath layers of carefully crafted excuses. She started by examining his phone when he wasn't around, a device that until now had seemed just a tool of his work and communication. Her fingers trembled as she unlocked it, scrolling through messages and call logs with a mix of hesitation and determination. She sifted through conversations, looking for anything unusual: flirtatious texts, secret meetings, or hidden contacts. Some messages seemed innocent, but others left her uneasy. There were calls she hadn't known about, timestamps during late hours when she thought he was at the office. She noticed him frequently deleting texts or silencing notifications, behaviors that once seemed like minor quirks but now appeared as deliberate acts of concealment. Her curiosity extended to his social media accounts, where she scanned through interactions, comments, and photos. There were vague mentions of meetings with unnamed colleagues, and a few pictures of him with women she didn't recognize. Though none were explicit, they added to the cloud of suspicion hanging over her mind. Each discovery stoked the fire of doubt that had already taken root in her heart. It was painful to see these pieces of his secret life, hidden from her view but now laid bare by her own vigilance. Despite this, a part of her struggled to hold on to the love she had for him. The memories of kindness, laughter, and shared dreams clashed violently with the harsh reality unfolding before her. The nights became restless as her mind oscillated between hope and despair. She wrestled with the emotional conflict inside her, wanting to believe in his innocence, yet feeling the sting of betrayal with every uncovered secret. Her thoughts were consumed by questions she didn't know how to answer. Was he truly slipping away from their marriage? Was the lipstick just the tip of a deeper betrayal? She tried to push these doubts aside, telling herself that she might be reading too much into things, but the evidence was mounting and refusing to be ignored. The tension between her heart and mind grew unbearable, leaving her exhausted and uncertain. Realizing the depth of the situation, she reached out to someone she trusted implicitly, a longtime friend who had stood by her through every hardship. This friend was not only compassionate but had connections to a private investigator known for discretion and effectiveness. After much hesitation, she decided to involve this expert, hoping that professional help would provide clarity where her own fears and emotions clouded judgment. The friend promised to keep everything confidential, offering both emotional support and practical assistance as they embarked on this painful quest for the truth. With the investigator's help, they began to uncover more than she could have imagined. Surveillance footage, witness accounts, and discreet inquiries painted a picture of late-night meetings at upscale restaurants and private gatherings far from the eyes of the public. The husband's explanations about business trips and work commitments began to unravel in light of this new information. The investigator uncovered details that made it impossible to dismiss the lipstick stain as an accident or misunderstanding. Each revelation was like a fresh wound, deepening the sense of betrayal but also empowering her with knowledge she desperately needed. Despite the growing evidence, she still found it difficult to reconcile the man she loved with the man the investigation revealed. It was as if two versions of him existed, one she had cherished and another she barely recognized. This duality tore at her soul, making the path ahead feel both necessary and heartbreakingly painful. She began to prepare herself mentally for the confrontation she knew was inevitable, but for now, she focused on gathering facts, holding on to the truth even as it threatened to shatter her completely. The quiet investigation became a turning point in her journey. No longer blinded by hope alone, she was now armed with reality. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but it allowed her to regain control over a situation that had once seemed overwhelming. In the stillness of those long nights, as she pieced together the fragments of deception, she found a growing strength within herself, strength she would need to face what was to come. The evening was thick with tension the moment he stepped through the door. She had waited all day, heart pounding, clutching the folder of evidence she had gathered with the private investigator's help. The luxurious penthouse felt suffocating, the silence between them heavier than ever before. When he finally saw the determined look in her eyes and the files spread across the dining table, something shifted in his expression, an uneasy flicker of guilt or perhaps irritation. She didn't waste a moment. "We need to talk," she said quietly but firmly, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and pain. He hesitated, then nodded, the casual smile he usually wore nowhere to be seen. She opened the folder and laid out the photos, the text messages, the surveillance reports. "Explain this," she demanded, her voice rising as the disbelief morphed into fury. "Late dinners, secret calls, texts you deleted, meetings with women you never told me about. And what about the lipstick on your shirt? How do you justify that?" Her eyes searched his face, desperate for an answer that could erase the betrayal that cut so deep. For a moment, he was silent, staring down at the evidence as if it were a stranger's truth rather than his own. Then came his response, a mixture of denial and defensiveness. "You're overreacting," he snapped. "It's not what you think. You're reading too much into things. Business lunches, nothing more." His voice was sharp, almost angry, but she could see the cracks in his facade. "Why would you go through my phone? That's an invasion of privacy." His words stung, but she refused to back down. "This isn't about privacy. It's about respect and honesty, things you clearly don't understand anymore." She took a step closer, her voice firm. "I'm carrying your child. I deserve the truth. His anger flared, but beneath it, a flicker of guilt betrayed him. You think I'd throw away everything we have over a fling? He demanded, eyes blazing. You don't know what you're talking about. She shook her head, tears threatening to spill, frustration boiling over. I know enough. And it's not just a fling. It's betrayal. Especially now, when I'm pregnant, when we should be united, you choose to lie and hide. Her voice cracked, the pain raw and real. I trusted you. I still do, in some part of me. But I won't pretend this didn't happen. The room felt charged, every word a spark in a powder keg. The tension between them was unbearable, a chasm growing wider with each passing second. He took a step toward her, trying to regain control of the conversation, but she stood her ground, unwavering. I'm filing for divorce, she declared, voice steady despite the tears. I can't raise our child in a house built on lies. The finality in her tone stunned him. Divorce, he echoed, disbelief and anger mixing in his voice. You're pregnant. Think about the child. She met his gaze without flinching. Exactly because I'm pregnant, I can't tolerate this betrayal. I deserve better, for myself and for our baby. You've broken us. The husband's face twisted with a mixture of frustration, guilt, and something close to regret. He opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. No more excuses. No more lies. This ends now. The once vibrant love that had filled their home felt like a distant memory, replaced by a cold reality neither of them could deny. Her decision was resolute, born not just from anger but from a deep well of self-respect and maternal protectiveness. She had reached the breaking point, and there was no turning back. The man she loved and the man standing before her were no longer the same. The facade of the perfect marriage had crumbled, revealing painful truths she refused to ignore. As the night deepened, so did the silence between them, heavy with loss, regret, and the finality of a love betrayed. In those tense moments, she felt a strange mix of sorrow and empowerment. Sorrow for what had been lost, for the future that would never be. Empowerment because she was no longer willing to sacrifice her dignity or her child's well-being for a man who chose deceit over loyalty. Their marriage, once a sanctuary, was now a battlefield. And she was ready to fight, not for reconciliation, but for her own freedom and peace. In the quiet aftermath of the confrontation, she found herself alone with her thoughts, the weight of betrayal pressing heavily on her chest. The vivid image of the lipstick-stained shirt and the cold denial that followed haunted her relentlessly. She replayed every moment, every word, trying to make sense of what had happened. It was not just the act of infidelity that wounded her, it was the shattering of trust, the realization that the man she had loved and relied on had chosen deception over honesty. But more than anything, she thought about the life growing inside her, the innocent child who deserved a stable, loving environment. Her resolve began to harden. She knew she could not allow this betrayal to define their future. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, but amidst the chaos, one clear thought emerged: she had to protect herself and her unborn baby at all costs. The decision to file for divorce did not come lightly, but once it crystallized in her heart, there was no hesitation. She understood that staying in a marriage built on lies would only bring pain and uncertainty. She wanted more for herself and her child, a life free from mistrust, where love and respect were not conditional but foundational. This was not just about ending a relationship, it was about reclaiming her dignity and securing a future where she could thrive without fear or doubt. Yet, she was not immune to the pressures that came with such a bold decision. Society often expects women, especially pregnant women, to endure and forgive, to prioritize family unity over personal happiness. She felt the weight of judgment looming, the silent whispers of those who believed she should keep the family together for the baby's sake. Even some family members hesitated, torn between loyalty to the husband's status and concern for her well-being. But she had grown strong, fueled by a fierce love for her child and an unyielding belief in her worth. She refused to let societal expectations or family doubts dictate her path. Her courage was not born from defiance alone but from a deep understanding that her child's future depended on her strength and clarity. The days following the confrontation were filled with difficult conversations and careful planning. She sought advice from close friends who supported her unconditionally, and with their encouragement, she began to navigate the complex world of divorce proceedings. Knowing the stakes were high, financially, emotionally, and legally, she decided to hire one of the top divorce lawyers in the city, someone with a reputation for discretion and fierce advocacy. This decision was empowering. It marked the moment she took control of her destiny, shifting from victim to strategist. The lawyer's office, with its quiet professionalism, became a sanctuary where she could lay out her goals: protection of her rights, custody arrangements, and securing the best possible future for her child. Preparing for the legal battle ahead was daunting. She reviewed financial documents, understood the assets they shared, and planned how to shield herself and her baby from the fallout of the divorce. The lawyer explained the nuances of high-profile separations, the tactics often used by wealthy spouses to complicate proceedings, and the importance of being prepared for every eventuality. Though intimidating, this knowledge fortified her resolve. She realized that her fight was not just personal but a battle for justice and respect. Every step she took was deliberate, aimed at safeguarding her emotional and financial security while maintaining dignity in the face of adversity. Throughout this process, her inner strength blossomed. She found moments of clarity amid the storm, reminding herself that this difficult choice was the first step toward healing. Each day, as her body carried their unborn child, her spirit grew more determined to create a nurturing environment free from lies and pain. She imagined the life she wanted to build, a life where love was honest, where she could be both mother and woman without compromise. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also ignited a fierce fire within her, a fire fueled by the promise of new beginnings. While some nights brought tears and loneliness, she never wavered in her decision. She understood that protecting her child meant standing up for herself, setting boundaries, and refusing to accept anything less than respect and truth. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with uncertainty and conflict, but she was ready. The woman who once saw herself as part of a perfect union now embraced her independence with quiet pride. Filing for divorce was not an act of defeat but a declaration of strength, a statement that she would not let betrayal define her or her child's future. Pregnancy was supposed to be a time of joy and anticipation, a sacred period filled with hope for the future. But for her, it became an emotional roller coaster marked by heartbreak and uncertainty. The physical toll of carrying a child was compounded by the weight of betrayal that settled like a shadow over her days. There were moments when her body ached not only from the changes pregnancy demanded but also from the heaviness in her heart. Mornings began with nausea and fatigue, but also with a gnawing ache, a mixture of sadness and anger that refused to fade. The love she once felt for her husband was now tangled with pain, leaving her emotionally drained and vulnerable. Despite the turmoil, there were flashes of extraordinary strength within her. She found herself growing fiercely protective of the life inside her, determined to shield her baby from the chaos surrounding them. Every kick and flutter reminded her that this tiny being depended on her resilience. There were quiet mornings when she would place her hands over her belly and whisper promises of love and safety, vowing to be both mother and protector no matter what storms lay ahead. These moments of connection fueled her courage, giving her the strength to face each day even when the weight of heartbreak felt unbearable. Friends and family became her lifeline during this fragile time. Those closest to her offered more than words. They became pillars of support who listened without judgment and provided comfort when tears came unbidden. Her mother would visit often, bringing warm meals and sharing stories of her own struggles, reminding her that pain and hope could coexist. A best friend stood by her side, accompanying her to doctor's appointments and holding her hand during sleepless nights. Their unwavering presence was a balm for her wounded spirit, helping her to navigate the turbulent waters of pregnancy and heartbreak. These relationships reminded her that she was not alone, that even in the darkest moments, love and support could light the way forward. As her marriage deteriorated under the weight of lies and betrayal, her maternal instincts blossomed with fierce clarity. Where once her heart had been divided between love for her husband and trust in their union, it now beat solely for her child. The contrast was stark and painful. The crumbling foundation of her relationship stood in sharp relief against the tender, hopeful future she envisioned for her baby. She began to focus on preparing a nursery, choosing soft colors and gentle textures, creating a sanctuary of peace and love that felt worlds away from the turmoil at home. Each detail was a promise, a tangible symbol of the life she was determined to build. Physically, pregnancy brought its own challenges, morning sickness, fatigue, and the growing discomfort of a changing body. Yet these struggles were intertwined with the emotional pain, each amplifying the other. There were days when exhaustion overcame her, tears spilling freely as she grappled with loneliness and fear. But there were also days of triumph, when she looked in the mirror and saw not just a woman betrayed but a mother-to-be growing stronger every moment. Her reflection became a symbol of endurance, a reminder that life continued even amid heartbreak. The house, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, now felt silent and heavy. Conversations with her husband had become strained or non-existent, replaced by cold exchanges and avoidance. Yet within this emptiness, her bond with her unborn child grew deeper, a source of light in the darkness. She dreamed of holding her baby for the first time, imagining a future filled with love and hope that no betrayal could destroy. This vision sustained her, giving her the courage to face each difficult day. Through every emotional low and every small victory, she discovered parts of herself she never knew existed. The pregnancy was not just a physical journey but a profound emotional transformation, shaping her into a woman who could love fiercely, protect unwaveringly, and heal gradually. Heartbreak and hope became intertwined, each giving meaning to the other as she prepared to welcome new life into a world that had changed forever. What began as a private pain soon erupted into a public scandal, sending shockwaves through the glittering world they inhabited. News of the billionaire's marital troubles leaked to the media in a frenzy of speculation and sensational headlines. Paparazzi swarmed their once private neighborhood, snapping photos of the penthouse and stalking every move she made. Tabloid magazines filled their covers with bold, scandalous claims, accusations of infidelity, whispered affairs, and a marriage on the brink of collapse. The story quickly became fodder for late-night talk shows and social media debates, transforming her personal heartbreak into a public spectacle. Strangers offered opinions, some sympathetic, many judgmental, but all eager to dissect the unraveling of a high-profile romance. The public reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fans of the billionaire expressed shock and disbelief, unwilling to reconcile the man they admired with the image painted by the media. Gossip columns speculated endlessly about the identity of the woman behind the lipstick stain, while others took sides, debating the wife's decision to file for divorce while pregnant. Online forums buzzed with heated discussions, and hashtags related to the scandal trended across platforms. The invasive attention stripped away any sense of normalcy she once had, turning her daily life into a constant battle to maintain control amid the chaos. Despite the flood of misinformation and rumors, she held tightly to her truth, refusing to be defined by tabloid headlines. Amid this relentless spotlight, her struggle to maintain privacy and dignity became a daily challenge. Every public appearance was scrutinized, what she wore, how she spoke, even the way she moved. Paparazzi waited at doctor's appointments, turning what should have been intimate moments of care and vulnerability into a circus of flashing cameras. Despite the invasion, she refused to let the media steal her strength or shame her for standing up for herself and her child. She spoke rarely but with purpose when necessary, carefully crafted statements affirming her commitment to privacy and her determination to protect her family from the glare of public scrutiny. Her resilience in the face of this pressure became a quiet form of resistance against the narrative the world tried to impose. Meanwhile, the husband's carefully cultivated public image began to crumble under the weight of the scandal. Investors and business partners started to question his focus and leadership as rumors of his personal life spilled into professional circles. Charitable organizations distanced themselves, wary of the negative publicity. Sponsors and endorsements quietly withdrew support, and his once unshakable reputation showed cracks for all to see. The man who had stood at the pinnacle of success now found himself vulnerable, exposed not just in his marriage but in his career and social standing. This fall from grace added a new layer of tension, highlighting the high stakes involved, not just for their relationship but for their entire world. The media frenzy amplified the emotional turmoil she was already enduring. Every headline felt like a fresh wound, every rumor a betrayal by strangers who had no idea of the pain behind the public facade. Yet, it also steeled her resolve. The scandal, while invasive and painful, underscored the importance of her decision to protect herself and her child. It was a reminder that the fight she was engaged in extended beyond the personal. It was a battle for dignity in a world eager to tear her down. This public scrutiny raised the stakes dramatically, turning a private heartbreak into a high-profile drama with no easy escape. In the midst of this storm, she learned to navigate a new reality, balancing the demands of pregnancy and legal battles with the harsh glare of public opinion. It was a delicate dance of vulnerability and strength, of maintaining grace under fire while forging a path toward healing. The scandal became a crucible, testing not only her courage but her very identity. Yet through it all, she refused to let the world's judgment define her worth or dictate her future. Instead, she used the pressure to fuel her determination to rise above, to protect her family, and to emerge stronger on the other side of the storm. The moment she filed for divorce, the legal battle began in earnest, plunging her into a world far more ruthless and complex than she had ever imagined. The fight was not just about ending a marriage, it was a war for custody of their unborn child, division of vast assets, and the protection of her dignity and future. From the outset, her husband's team made it clear they intended to use every tool at their disposal to complicate and prolong the process. With deep pockets and connections stretching into the highest echelons of power, they launched a barrage of legal maneuvers designed to intimidate and exhaust her. What should have been a straightforward process turned into a grueling, exhausting ordeal. Despite the overwhelming odds, she stood firm, bolstered by a top-tier legal team who believed in her cause and fought relentlessly on her behalf. Her lawyer, a seasoned expert in high-profile divorces, was relentless, matching every tactic with precision and strength. Together, they navigated a maze of hearings, depositions, and negotiations, refusing to be overwhelmed by the husband's attempts to sway the courts with his influence. Each court appearance was a test of her resilience, forcing her to relive the pain of betrayal while standing tall against a system that often favored wealth and power over truth and fairness. The courtroom scenes were charged with tension, a stage for dramatic exchanges that laid bare the fractures in their once private life. Her husband's lawyers pushed hard, questioning her character, trying to paint her as unstable or overly emotional because of her pregnancy. They attempted to use their resources to discredit her, bringing in witnesses to cast doubt on her allegations and challenge her fitness as a mother. But she remained composed, her resolve unshaken. With her legal team's guidance, she presented clear evidence of infidelity and demonstrated her unwavering commitment to the child's welfare. Her presence in court was powerful, a blend of vulnerability and strength that earned the sympathy and respect of many. Her pregnancy added a poignant urgency to the proceedings. The judge and courtroom observers could see the physical reality of her condition, and this visibly influenced the atmosphere. The knowledge that she was carrying their child heightened the stakes, making every decision about custody and support all the more critical. She was fighting not just for herself but for a life still to come, and that responsibility lent a moral weight to her cause that was hard to ignore. The judge's questions often reflected concern for the baby's well-being, and her lawyers skillfully emphasized this angle to reinforce her position. Her pregnancy became a symbol of hope amid the bitter conflict, reminding everyone that this battle was about more than money or pride. It was about protecting innocence. Behind the scenes, the power plays were relentless. Her husband's team tried to delay proceedings with endless motions and legal technicalities, hoping she would wear down or capitulate. They leveraged media connections to leak selective information, attempting to sway public opinion and pressure her into a settlement. But she and her team remained vigilant, refusing to be rattled by intimidation or manipulation. Each attempt to undermine her only strengthened her determination to see justice done. She realized that the fight was as much about reclaiming her voice as it was about legal victory. Throughout the grueling months, she drew strength from the support of friends and family, who attended court sessions when possible and provided a constant source of encouragement. Their presence reminded her she was not alone in this battle, that she was fighting for a future that deserved to be bright and untainted by betrayal. The physical challenges of pregnancy sometimes left her exhausted, but mentally she was steel, driven by the knowledge that her child's future depended on the outcome. Every legal victory, no matter how small, was a step closer to freedom and peace. As the courtroom drama unfolded, the contrast between her dignity and her husband's attempts to cling to power became stark. Where he sought to manipulate and control, she sought fairness and truth. Where he used influence to hide behind a veil of wealth, she stood exposed but unbroken, her courage shining through every word and gesture. The court became more than a battleground. It was a place where she reclaimed her identity, her voice, and her rights. The victory she sought was not just legal, it was deeply personal. By the time the hearings drew to a close, it was clear that she had fought a battle that tested every ounce of her strength. The final judgment, which granted her custody and a fair division of assets, was not just a legal win but a triumph of resilience and integrity. Her pregnancy had brought a sense of urgency and humanity to the process that made the outcome not only just but inspiring. As she walked out of the courtroom, the weight of the ordeal lingered, but so did a quiet pride. She had faced power and privilege head-on and emerged victorious, not just for herself, but for the child she was about to bring into the world. After the long, exhausting legal battle finally came to an end and the divorce was finalized, she felt a mixture of relief and cautious optimism wash over her. The chapter of betrayal and heartbreak was behind her, and though the scars remained, she was ready to begin rebuilding her life on her own terms. The freedom she had fought so hard to claim now offered a fresh canvas, one where she could paint a future defined by her own choices, strength, and resilience. The journey had been painful, but it had also been transformative, shaping her into a woman who understood her worth and the power of self-love in ways she never had before. Her newfound independence brought a sense of empowerment that surprised even her. No longer bound by the shadow of a fractured marriage, she embraced the opportunity to rediscover who she was beyond the titles of wife and soon-to-be mother. She explored new interests, rekindled old passions, and surrounded herself with people who uplifted and supported her growth. Simple things, a quiet morning with a book, a walk through a park, a heartfelt conversation with a trusted friend, became moments of joy and reflection. Each day was a step forward, a small victory in the larger journey toward healing and self-acceptance. Preparing for her baby's arrival filled her with a renewed sense of hope and excitement. She decorated the nursery with soft colors and gentle fabrics, carefully selecting items that symbolized safety and warmth. Every detail was a testament to her commitment to create a loving environment free from the pain of the past. She imagined the days she would hold her child in her arms, feeling a deep connection that transcended all the difficulties she had endured. This anticipation became a guiding light, reminding her that despite the hardships, new life and happiness were on the horizon. Her baby was not just a source of joy but a symbol of her resilience and capacity to love without limits. Reflecting on the lessons learned, she understood that bitterness and anger would only weigh her down. Instead, she chose forgiveness, not for the sake of those who had wronged her, but for her own peace of mind. Letting go of resentment allowed her to focus on the future, embracing possibilities instead of dwelling on past pain. She recognized the strength it took to walk away from what was familiar and to build something new from the ashes. This clarity gave her confidence, a quiet assurance that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead with grace and determination. Her journey was also a reminder that healing is not linear. There were days when sadness and doubt crept in, moments when the memories of betrayal still stung sharply. But she learned to treat herself with kindness during these times, understanding that growth comes with patience and self-compassion. Each wave of emotion was part of the process, and she allowed herself the space to feel without judgment. Over time, the pain softened, replaced by a resilient hope that carried her forward. Surrounded by a supportive circle of friends and family, she found joy in shared celebrations and everyday moments alike. Their encouragement reinforced the sense that she was never truly alone and that love could come in many forms. She also discovered strength within herself she hadn't known existed, a strength that would serve her well not only as a single mother but as a woman carving out her own path in the world. This inner power became the foundation upon which she built her new life, a life filled with possibility and promise. As she looked ahead, she no longer feared the unknown. Instead, she welcomed it as a chance to create happiness on her own terms. The future was hers to shape, and with every breath she took, she embraced the promise of healing and new beginnings. The betrayal that once threatened to define her story was now just a chapter in a much larger narrative, one of courage, growth, and unwavering hope. The day she gave birth to her healthy baby was the culmination of a journey marked by pain, resilience, and unwavering hope. As she held her newborn in her arms for the first time, a flood of emotions washed over her: relief, joy, and a profound sense of accomplishment. This tiny life was a powerful symbol of new beginnings, a testament to her strength through adversity and the promise of a future unburdened by the shadows of the past. In that quiet hospital room, surrounded by the soft cries of her child and the gentle support of loved ones, she felt a peace she had not known for months. The baby's first breath was not just a new start for them but a rebirth of her own spirit. Becoming a single mother brought challenges, of course, but it also ignited a fierce sense of empowerment within her. She embraced the responsibility with grace, determined to create a nurturing environment filled with love, stability, and boundless encouragement. Every late night and early morning was met with unwavering dedication, each milestone celebrated with quiet pride. The betrayal she had endured no longer defined her; instead, it had strengthened her resolve to provide the best life possible for her child. She discovered depths of patience, courage, and resourcefulness that surprised even herself. The obstacles she faced only fueled her determination to thrive. Her days were busy yet fulfilling, balancing motherhood with rebuilding her own identity. She pursued new business ventures that aligned with her passions and values, channeling her energy into creating something meaningful beyond the role of mother. Whether it was launching a small company, engaging in creative projects, or contributing to causes close to her heart, she found joy in carving out a space where she could grow independently. This new chapter was about more than survival; it was about flourishing, about building a life rich with purpose and possibility. Her child was the heart of this new world, but she was also the woman at its center, confident and self-sufficient. Hints of new love gently emerged on the horizon, not as a replacement for the past but as a natural evolution of her healing. She opened her heart cautiously, aware of the lessons learned but hopeful about the future. The experiences she had endured taught her the importance of trust and communication, and she was determined to build relationships founded on respect and honesty. This cautious optimism added a layer of warmth to her days, a quiet promise that happiness and companionship were still within reach. For now, she focused on nurturing the bond with her child and herself, knowing that whatever came next would be on her own terms. Throughout her journey, one message resonated clearly: trust must begin with oneself. She had learned that self-worth is not granted by others but cultivated from within, through acceptance, courage, and resilience. Betrayal had tried to dim her light, but instead, it had made her shine brighter. Her story was no longer one of pain but of empowerment, a powerful reminder that even in the darkest moments, strength can be found. She had faced heartbreak and come through it stronger, proving that resilience is not just surviving but thriving beyond the wounds. As she looked toward the future, she carried with her the lessons of the past without letting them weigh her down. The betrayal had been a chapter, but not the whole story. Her life was now defined by the love she gave and received, the courage she embodied, and the hope she nurtured. She knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she possessed the strength to face them head-on. The journey had transformed her, unveiling a woman who was whole, powerful, and ready to embrace whatever life had in store. In the quiet moments, as she rocked her baby to sleep or gazed out at the horizon, she felt a profound gratitude for the path she had traveled. The past could not be changed, but the future was hers to shape. Trust, self-worth, and resilience had become her guiding lights, illuminating the way forward with clarity and purpose. This was not just a story of loss but a celebration of rebirth, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a woman who had reclaimed her life and found strength beyond betrayal.